Hi, Cancer. Welcome to your April 2019 Astro Update. I'm Raina, and this is a big career month for you, Cancer, because the Sun is in Aries, and Aries is your 10th house of career. The 10th house is the house of your house of fame and fortune, if you will. So how it is that you make a name for yourself in the world. And I'm not talking about literally being famous or anything like that. I'm just speaking of the utilizing your talents and people knowing you for certain things. And that's something that we all possess, that we all can take advantage of in our own way. The problem is when one person tries to compare their life to somebody else's and thinks that they need to be different in order to be as good as that person. Obviously, that's in air quotes. And the other thing about that is that it requires that you know who you are. And then you're not confused because you're not on somebody else's path. So, but whatever is going on, it's really good for that because there's a new moon on the 5th in the same sector. So this means a new moon in Aries means that you could have new opportunities arise that connect with your career. And then on the 10th, there's a Jupiter retrograde in Sagittarius, in the 6th house of health and work. So, you know, it's one of those things that when you have it's like one step forward and one step back. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you will have any kind of a lack of work or something like that. Actually, it could mean that you revisit an old opportunity for a particular job. Maybe this has to do with if you're like, maybe you're freelancing and a particular place that you used to work for has said, hey, you know, we're hiring. And even though you're doing great with your career, you take on that extra type of assignment or something along those lines. There just is something going on with maybe in an internalized way, your sense of confidence or maybe optimism is the best word when it comes to matters of work. Because when planets retrograde, we tend to, have more of a internalized influence. And so we're perceiving them at a different level, with Jupiter being a planet related to philosophy and kind of the spiritual influence. And in the 6th house, which is a very practical house, it's really about kind of looking at how you pursue work, perceive work, what is, or service. I think that is the key, because you have all these wonderful energies in April in the 10th house, and that is kind of your glory. It's your reputation in the world. And so, Cancer, how does that jibe with what it is that you're doing for others? You know, it's great to get a pat on the back and for people to think you're great, or, you know, I said great twice, but to think that you are competent or awesome, whatever you want to call it. But how do you serve others? And do you feel like this humble servant when you are dealing with other people? And this is also related to your health. You know, sometimes cancers can be hypochondriacs. I mean, you're very concerned because, and it's not, I'm not making light of that, because obviously being on top of your health is a wonderful thing. But it's all about being positive about your health and not like worrying too much. And, you know, Cancer is a sign that tends to worry because you're concerned about security, whether it's about money, whether it's about your health, or something like that. And it's important to cultivate a positive attitude in these areas. So because of the nature of Jupiter and it being a benefactor, if you find for some reason that work production, or if you have the kind of job where you have to get one job after the next, maybe you kind of are a freelancer, you work for yourself, whatever it is, and you find, working for yourself, for example, and you find that it's slowing down a little bit, understand that these things can happen. I mean, Saturn can produce restrictions as well, but it's for a purpose. It's not just to punish you, it's to make you go within. Because when we're really busy, we don't have time to think. So we need these little lulls in order to think. Now, I'm not saying that there's going to be a big lull, so don't get nervous here. But I want to cover all the aspects. It may simply be that you receive an opportunity that passed you by the first time. It may have nothing to do with all that other stuff. But in case it does, to make sure that you do not overreact. Because in life, this is when things tend to mushroom, when people, they have one experience and then they act like, oh my God, the sky is falling. And we don't want to do that. On the 17th, Mercury goes into Aries, and Aries is that house again, joining the sun in that 10th house. This can be you even contacting people who are, or communicating with people who are your superiors, people who can help you, who have that kind of clout. And it may be that you are doing something that you are coming before the public in a way that you must speak in and share your voice, and that your voice is quite prominent at this time for whatever reason. This can be simply contracts, and Mercury can be contracts that are connected to 10th house matters, to career matters. This is also good for people that are trying to land jobs that involve your mind. So if you're somebody in academia or teaching in general, having Mercury in the 10th house can mean that you are going into some kind of mental occupation. And of course, this is coming on the heels of the new moon on the 5th. And then on the 19th, we have the second of two full moons in Libra, this one at 29 degrees. This is in your 4th house of home and family. So you've had one 0 degrees, now at 29 degrees. This closes a chapter on something that has to do with your family. You're the ruler of this house, Cancer. And this is all the house of the mother. So if you have, for instance, had a mother who passed away and you had to deal with her estate and all, actually the physical home, maybe your childhood home or the home that she lived in when you were an adult, but she moved into a smaller house. You may have had to, in the last month, be kind of packing everything up, shipping things out. Maybe you sold the home. This could be your home that you've been putting on the market and it finally is selling. Maybe last month you unexpectedly put your house on the market. It wasn't something that you planned to do. But there's a definite emphasis from March to April on home matters, and also putting that final punctuation mark, that period mark on something that is domestic in nature. And this can be childhood issues. And maybe you, last month, you just had this totally, this total revelation about something connected to your childhood that has always kept you back, that has always been quite, I don't know, troubling. And, for some reason in my mind, it popped up about conceiving a child. So, for those Cancer women who may have felt that you had fertility issues. Now, Cancer being a water sign, I would think that is not going to be the majority of you, because from what I've read, water is very fertile for a woman to conceive. But if you did have those issues and you had some kind of revelation about something that maybe something traumatic that happened to you that you didn't realize consciously was creating resistance between you even thinking about having children. And now you feel like either prepared or maybe even pregnant. Usually the fifth house is the conception of a child, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of you are able to get pregnant in April even. Okay, and so the next day we have the sun going into Taurus and Venus going into Aries on the very same day. So we have the sun going into your 11th house of hopes and wishes and friendships. So this can be a very nice social energy. And again, with your career matters, the sun moving into the next house, this could be about you really targeting groups of people in order to promote your career objectives with them. Maybe part of your career is enlisting other people. And so you're getting into that arena. And Venus, and it's also good for your friendships, kind of breathing life into friendships. Maybe you have been kind of, I don't want to use the word negligent, but you've been busy and you haven't had time for your friends, Cancer. So that would be good. And so Venus on the same day going into Aries. So this means that Venus in Pisces has been in your 9th house. And this is for most of the month. Venus has been in your 9th house. Venus in the 9th house can be related to anything like maybe falling in love with somebody from a different race, culture, ethnicity, especially country, like a foreigner, whoever is a foreigner to you. And now Venus is in the 10th house of career, and this can give you popularity. This can curry favor from higher ups, people who have the power over you if you work for somebody else, or people, movers and shakers who can help you to advance your career. This could even have a monetary connection. You might get a raise, some sort of money attached to your career or attached to your reputation, attached to your popularity right now. So it brings a harmonious influence to career matters. Okay, and then at the end of the month, we have 2 transits in Capricorn, 2 retrogrades in Capricorn. Pluto retrograding on the 24th, Saturn on the 29th, and they're both in that 7th house of committed partnership. This has taken quite a toll. I have mentioned this probably to Cancer. I don't know if I mentioned it to Capricorn because that's your opposite sign. But I personally know somebody who's a Cancer, has been in a marriage for many years and is getting divorced. And it's just unbelievable. Of all the people that I've known, never, ever would have thought that this person would have sought a divorce. And just knowing what Cancer is like, Cancer kind of clings. And we're talking about a very long marriage, decades. and even, connections before marriage. So the point being that Cancer is going through incredible transformation. You have North Node in your sign. You have all these Capricorn transits, and the South Node is also in Capricorn, opposing your sun, opposing your rising sign. And this, I'm talking about, for Cancer rising, obviously. This can create a lot of stress because an opposition is considered a hard angle. And especially when those planets are considered very challenging in and of themselves. And the South Node is also talking about karma. So what I think that this really boils down to is that you have to do you, Cancer. You are a nurturing sign. There's no question about it. And you may have devoted your life caring for others. Okay. Now, as I have been talking about this month, a lot of energy is in that 10th house of career. And you may know this, you may not know this, but Capricorn rules that house. So you are the 4th house of home and family, and there's an opposition there between your 4th house and their 10th house. Okay. So it's really about home versus career. And so you typically are very comfortable, whether you're a woman or a male Cancerian, you are comfortable in the domestic sphere. You are somebody who is a homebody. Even if you have a job, even if you work outside the home, you tend to really love that nest. And for you to kind of break away from a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, is very courageous because you value the family and you value history. But something may compel you along these lines. And if it has, I definitely would not second guess yourself unless you have been going through some other major stressor in your life that may have rendered you quite irrational. Then by all means, because you're a water sign, by all means, collect your emotions before you make a final decision. Maybe you're separated from somebody. In other words, don't be too hasty. It's so funny because I always say Cancer is very cautious, but you are a cardinal sign, and cardinal signs can take action. And, it doesn't matter if it's a Cancer or an Aries, or a Capricorn or a Libra. You can take action. And make sure, so if you're under some kind of duress because of something else going on in your life, then of course, don't make a final decision until you've really thought it out. But in general, with the South Node in that 7th house, that can, for some people, create this kind of like safety net, or I don't know how else to put it. It's a karmic influence. And when people hear the word karma, they go, oh my God, it's bad luck. And it's in my 7th house, so I should definitely get divorced. No, it means don't fall back into old patterns. And there may have been times in past lives where being very other-oriented was definitely indicated. But in this particular moment of time, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about transits here. So you have the transiting North Node in your sign in your 1st house. You're meant to follow your own path at this time. Doesn't mean for the rest of your eternity, because the North Node will then travel to the 12th house. It's going clockwise, unlike the other transits. So that's just what I wanted to say about that. And I just wanted to say that you may have been going through quite a lot with relationships. You've had Saturn there the last year and a few months, and Pluto. Pluto, especially retrograde, could be, it was popped into my head. If you've ever seen that movie, and it was a play, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I think a Cancer person would really love that play because it was, you had two water signs in the movie, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Richard Burton was, I believe, a Scorpio, and I know Elizabeth Taylor was a Pisces. Just a tour de force. The acting, the writing was on point, and just complete pathos. Just the sense of like all the venom coming out from this married couple. And this is the kind of thing that Pluto retrograde can bring. And I don't want to say this lightly, but you can, if you're in a relationship that you consider rock solid, this could simply be, it could still be shadow work, but it could be very beneficial to the relationship. I am an optimistic person. I don't look at any transit as bad. But it can be challenging, of course, and it all depends on the status of your relationship. If your relationship is on shaky ground, even these planets direct will definitely create a lot of challenges. But if you have a fairly good relationship, this could simply be that it's pointing out areas that you need to work on, whether it's communication and, not allowing resentments to kind of build, or simply with Saturn retrograde, all of the other things, Saturn is about discipline. So how do we become disciplined in relationships? Spending time together, making that a priority, good communication and doing things together that are fun. Obviously, there are times in life when these things are going to be challenged because of work schedules, all kinds of things. Even budget can, eat into some of these kinds of activities, and it might put more stress on the relationship. But it definitely can, happiness can prevail no matter what. I think I said prevail instead of prevail. But in any case, I hope that you got something positive from this Cancer. And if you would like a personal reading where I'm looking at your natal charts, and that's fun because you can see, I have the sun in Cancer, but it's in the 5th house. So that's why I love having so much fun. And I'm almost like a Leo in that sense. I'm like a big kid. And it really adds a layer to all of this. And then also looking at some of the transits that are coming up for you and how they might impact your life. So the link is below. The link is below. Excuse me. And my website is ReinaMoonAstrology.com. Take care. Bye.